How's it going, guys? I'm Theo Joe, and 2018 is finally upon us. So I thought it would be fun to go over some tech trends and predictions that I think are going to happen in 2018. I've got about 10 different things, so you can also let me know what you think, if I'm completely wrong, if you agree with me. We can all talk about that down in the comments. So let's get started. First of all, self-driving cars. Now, there was a lot of attention with self-driving cars in 2017. Uber kind of started doing their own self-driving car tests. Google's been doing it for a while. But I think 2018 is going to be the year where we might start to see, maybe at least till the end of the year, where self-driving cars actually get put into real service. Now, I'm not so sure it's going to be so quick where it'll be completely autonomous, where a car will go on every road, but I do think it will be the case where maybe in closed environments like, I don't know, college campuses, or maybe only certain parts of a city like a bus route, that those cars will be able to completely drive autonomously within a confined and predefined area. So I think that'll come a lot sooner than people think. And probably 2018 will be that year because, we already have self-driving cars. They just don't work perfectly yet. And especially with AI and machine learning making a lot of progress, I think we're going to see it pretty soon. All right, the next trend, I think we're going to see a lot more of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. In the end of 2017, we've been seeing a ton of buzz about Bitcoin. Whether it's in a bubble, who knows, but it has gotten a crap ton of attention, and you can't deny that. And I think with all the new technologies with other coins coming out, not just Bitcoin, I think there's going to be a lot of new companies, major companies, that are going to get in on the game. And even if a lot of these don't end up sticking around, I think there's going to be a lot of exploratory new technology, people doing a lot of experimentation. It's going to be very exciting to see what kind of blockchain uses we come up with in 2018, and maybe even cryptocurrencies starting to be used in real life. Who knows? Okay, third prediction, and I kind of touched on this before with the self-driving cars. I think artificial intelligence and machine learning is gonna make a lot more progress than they have already. There was a lot of buzz about AI this year, but it still kind of sucks, right? Especially with the YouTube algorithm using machine learning to figure out what's ad friendly. It's been a disaster. And then they've been using self-driving cars with AI, which has gotten better, but it's still not great. I think that it's still in its infancy, but over the course of the next year, it's going to get a lot better. And we might even see it not necessarily in the foreground where everyone's going to be knowing they're using AI, but it'll stick in the background and things will just gradually get a lot better as time goes on, to the point where we won't even notice how bad things were before. And some of these uses aren't stuff you'd think about immediately. So one really good example Google did earlier in 2017 was they had a picture through a chain link fence, and they used machine learning to remove the chain link fence and rebuild what the picture actually looked like without it. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is going to be super useful, where our brain is really good at it, but computers kind of suck. So if you're looking through a chain link fence in that example, our brain is pretty good at understanding what's behind it and knowing what is there, even though there's a chain link fence in front of it, and the computers haven't been able to do that, but I think we're going to be able to do that pretty soon. Next prediction, number 4, I think we're going to get a lot more smart home devices, Internet of Things, even if it's completely unnecessary stuff. I think companies are going to try and at least push for it. We saw a lot of new virtual assistants with Google Home, Amazon Echo. All the companies are coming out with it, even Siri with Apple. And this is going to be especially so, I think, with Bluetooth 5 coming out. You may have seen my previous video talking about Bluetooth 5 and how they kind of upgraded the protocol, where it's not just going to be one-to-one connections that's very clunky. It'll be used a lot more for smart devices that can receive information without connecting directly, and possibly even using local GPS, like indoor GPS, to triangulate where positions of objects are. So if you lose something, you can literally detect exactly where it is using Bluetooth. That sort of crazy stuff I think we're going to see a lot more of in 2018, assuming that it does get more adopted. We know that Bluetooth is usually introduced every year, the new version in new phones, so it might take a year or two before people actually start to be able to use it, even if it's introduced in new devices, but we're going to definitely see that, I think, by the end of 2018. Okay, trend number 5. I think we're going to see a lot more focus on cybersecurity, potentially the removal of passwords and some other type of paradigm introduced. Because, last year we saw a ton of hackings. The Equifax breach was a total disaster. And I think people are starting to realize their data is probably not as safe as they think it is. You put something online, there's a pretty good chance it might get hacked one day. So I think especially the big companies are going to be pushing for not just passwords being used, but maybe some kind of biometric security. And in general, I think the whole mindset has to change to really assume that you will be hacked, your accounts will be hacked. And that's why probably two-factor authentication is going to make a big move in 2018. So people are going to think, well, I'll just assume that this company is going to be able to protect me. And people are going to start to realize that's not the case. They're going to have to start using different passwords, stronger passwords, two-factor authentication. And even then, don't put stuff up online if you don't want it to be hacked. Okay, prediction number 6. This is just a personal prediction, and that is that I think we're going to get a new generation of virtual reality headsets, whether it's for gaming or Windows mixed reality, which I talked about before. And if it's not a totally new version released to the public, we'll at least get an announcement. Because it has been about 2 years since the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift were released, so I don't think these companies want to really alienate customers who are just buying it now, especially since it's taking a long time for VR to take off, but it is slowly and gradually increasing. So I think we're going to start to especially see headsets specifically that will be using inside-out tracking. So right now what you see is headsets that have cameras that you set up and they have sensors on them, and then the cameras detect where the devices are, and then it puts that into the computer. But I think we're going to eliminate that need where the headsets just use depth sensing cameras, kind of like HoloLens and the mixed reality headsets from Windows that do work really well, because what those do is literally don't need tracking devices, but rather analyze the environment in front of it and use that to figure out how you're moving. And it does work really well. I think that is definitely the future. It's going to make things a lot more portable, a lot easier to set up, and they work just as well, especially with the hand controllers too. Works fine. Kind of going off this, by the end of 2018, we might start to see a little bit of augmented reality. HoloLens, if you've not heard me talk about it before, is truly amazing technology. It's really what holograms should look like in the sci-fi. It's what you would expect. Just the field of view isn't quite there, and it's very expensive, but Microsoft is apparently working on a new version, so I think we'll start to see improvements in that range. Not quite consumer ready, but it's getting there. Okay, next, 5G. You've heard it talked about before. What exactly is it? Well, 5G is basically just going to be a lot faster cellular connection, obviously, but I think it also is going to allow not just cell phones to use cellular connections, but also maybe smaller devices, like just items around your home will be able to use the maximally increased bandwidth of the cellular connections that are capable on 5G so that it won't be so crowded, so you can introduce smaller devices and really everything won't need to be connected to Wi-Fi anymore. Maybe it'll have its own internet connection. That'll be pretty crazy to think about at the moment, but you know it's going to happen. And actually the 5G spec was just recently finalized, so while it might not be implemented into carriers, maybe it'll be implemented in the coming year, but we won't see it in devices till 2019, but it's getting there. The next two predictions also have to do with phones, specifically phone hardware. And the first of those two is that I think 2018 is going to be the year of high refresh rate phone screens. So this past year, it was all about like OLED screens and big screen to body ratios. And I think this year it's going to be high refresh rate. It's the natural next upgrade. We kind of have done everything previously. We got HDR, all that. High resolution screens are capable. But refresh rate is something that is an easy upgrade, or logically at least, not maybe technologically, where it's something that consumers will immediately see an improvement and will think, wow, this looks really good. Because if you've never used a high refresh rate monitor, it is night and day, and you really can't go back. So I think it's something that is easy to impress people with, and it's the natural next thing that especially phones are going to have. And we already know that Apple put a 120 hertz refresh rate screen into the iPad Pro, so I would be very, very surprised if it wasn't in the next iPhone and other phones as well. And next, prediction number 9, I think we will start to see phones that are able to have in-screen fingerprint readers. Now, there was rumor that Apple was trying to do this and put both Touch ID and Face ID in the iPhone X, but they weren't able to figure it out. I really don't like that they don't have the fingerprint sensor in the iPhone X. I think it would be great if they had both. We're not going to talk about that anymore because I know I've rambled on it in other videos way too long, but I do think at least one company is going to figure it out and put it in a phone, and it's going to be awesome. It'll allow the huge screen-to-body ratio and allow fingerprint sensor that is completely invisible, though I would be interested to see if Apple would put it into their next phone if they were able to, or if they don't want to embarrass themselves and have to go back on their word that Face ID is so much better than Touch ID, because if they put that in there, well, I'm sure they could spin it somehow, but I don't know. We're going to get at least one phone, and it'll be interesting to see how the market reacts, because do people want that fingerprint sensor or do they not care? All right, finally, number 10. This is just going to be kind of a crazy big prediction that I'm making myself. You can let me know what you think about it. But I think we're going to get a big change in what we use in terms of social media. I think we're going to get maybe a big new social media network that could rival Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And the reason for that is, I don't know if you've been kind of being on the pulse of all the news lately, but it seems like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all these big tech companies have become obsessed with social justice warrior crap, and they've literally started censoring users with anything that is remotely edgy or maybe offensive to some people. With the adpocalypse, they're kind of removing videos that talk about anything that doesn't fit their little narrative, and I think people are going to start to get tired of it, and this is compounded with the fact that I don't know about you, but I don't really use Facebook anymore. You go on Facebook, you look at the timeline, it's nothing from your friends anymore. It's just a bunch of garbage from BuzzFeed and stupid clickbait videos, and it's just all trash. And I think there's gonna be a big paradigm shift. Maybe these companies will buy up the next social media site, who knows? But I think there's gonna be something new that needs to replace all this garbage that we've been seeing lately, because it is becoming very, very useless if it never was before. So it's either going to be a completely new social media network, or maybe these tech companies will chill out and realize that it's not the end of the world if someone makes a controversial video that's a little bit edgy, because, you know, people like edgy stuff, especially if it's edgy humor, but apparently the people at the top don't like it, and it's really unfortunate because it's really stupid, the stuff they get worried about. They're letting the vocal minority flip out and get their way, even though it's stuff literally no one cares about. So you can let me know what you think about that. So yeah, those are just some predictions, and not just let me know about the last point, but all the points. We can talk about that down in the comments section, and if you have predictions as well, because I know that these are not going to be the be-all, end-all of things that are happening in 2018, and it'll probably be funny to go back and watch this video next year and see what kind of stuff I was right about and what I was wrong about. But if you guys want to keep watching, I'll put some other videos right here. You can just click on those, and if you want to subscribe, I make new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Should be worth it. And also be sure to enable notifications by clicking the bell next to the subscribe button, because again, that pesky YouTube algorithm literally might not show you new videos even if you do subscribe. That's the point that we're at right now, and that's why I think we're gonna get into trouble. But anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, so thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.